Alright, everybody, the only reason we're here today is so that I can explain to you what the Gilded Age was along with the Progressive Era. So, to start out, let's define the Gilded Age. The Gilded Age lasted from the 1870s to around 1900, and the term comes from Mark Twain's novel, The Gilded Age, A Tale of Today. And basically, gilded just means, encrusted in gold. So here we have, a little pile of excrement, and then here's that gold casing. Ooh, look, everything's so wonderful on the outside, but deep down we know that it's just the pile of excrement. Moving on. Causes of phenomenal economic growth. So I basically brought it down to three that I thought were the most important. One being population growth, and tying that along with immigration, because that's a form of population growth. And then there's also transportation, and then the tariffs. So for population growth, as America grew in size, we didn't have to stay in the original 13 colonies, and we moved westward towards, say, Texas, Ohio, Missouri, those states, etc. And with that came the need for skilled laborers to create railroads. This brings in people from other places, say Mexico below us, or Eastern Europeans overseas, but they come a little bit later. Tariffs. So, say in America here, we've got a piece of wood, and in America they charge $13.50 for that piece of wood. Wow, that's a pretty expensive piece of wood. But in China, if we shipped it over to China, it's great looking China, but instead of charging the Americans $13.50 for said piece of wood, we could go over to China and charge them $27 for the exact same piece of wood, just for the tax of overseas shipping. Alright, moving on. What were the consequences of changes that took place during the Gilded Age? Just start off, politicians were heavily corrupted by the economically elite, like those who ran big companies that could easily influence them with capital, or dollar bills, or greenbacks in this time. Industrial wages, were low, and hours were long, which led to labor laws and unions formed, along with child labor laws, which are quite useless since, children shouldn't be working 16-hour days in a factory to begin with, but I understand at that time things were different, and they needed the money. And along with that, farmers faced much more competition, since nobody wanted to work these horrid industrialized jobs. And then there was also the issue of horrible housing arrangements for families that were here, such as immigrants who had large families brought over, who were cramped into single-family households with 10 plus people. As I take a sip of my Polar Pop that is cleansed so I don't get cholera from drinking the water. And moving on, who were populists and what did they want? Populists were people upset over the poor government and their lack of competence and ability to operate effectively. And this started with the Granger movement of the 1870s. Which was basically a group of farmers that were mad about crop prices and the price at which they could get their tools and such that would provide them with more money to in turn just start the cycle over again. These populists were generally rural Americans, hence, more farmers, but then, was the Progressive Era successful? The question that it all comes down to, was the Progressive Era successful? Due to improvement in political democracy, conservation of American culture, if you would, social justice and economic justice, there's more improvement than there is failure. You know, in the form of political democracy, yes, we were corrupt politically, but Theodore Roosevelt really turned that around because he was swayed more towards the populist opinion. And economically, it was just a booming era for America. Hence, with World War I and all the money we made from shipping raw materials out there for the front lines we fought, and just making supplies to fight that war, because, you know, war is great for capital. Alright, it has been nice having you sit here and listen to me rant on about information you've probably heard 100 times now. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy staring at me awkwardly after this video. See ya.